You're listening to an AINC original podcast. We believe you don't have to do life without a compass. Let us be your guide on this amazing journey. Welcome to Navigating Life with Vision Loss.
Hello and welcome to Navigating Life with Vision Loss. I'm your host, Kim Wardlow. This podcast is brought to you by AfterSight, which is our new name that we launched this year. We were Audio Information Network of Colorado previously. So from now on, easier to remember, we are AfterSight. And we also have a phone number and an email that you can use if you have feedback for us, if you have questions, would like to contact us for any reason. The phone number is 720-712-8856. Again, that's 720-712-8856. Or you can email us feedback@aftersight.org. So today I guess I'm really looking forward to talking with. He's multi-talented. He's a life coach. But not just any life coach. He works only with those with disabilities. But in reading about him, he's also a gifted musician and has done all kinds of fun things in his career. He was diagnosed with RP at the age of 5 and declared legally blind at 15. We, this month, are talking about relationships, and so that's what we're talking to Charlie about. But if you would like to learn more about, and we may go into this a bit, but more about his journey of accepting vision loss and owning that vision loss, you can listen to The Blind Chick, one of our other podcasts, and the interview that Charlie did there. And I believe that episode was called Living a Kick-Ass Life or something to that effect. So Charlie, thank you so much for agreeing to be on Navigating Life with Vision Loss as well.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I've been really enjoying the conversations, and this is a subject that I really enjoy and work with my clients on all the time, almost every day. So I'm very excited to connect with you about it too, and all the listeners.
Well, we are in February, and that either highly anticipated or highly dreaded holiday of Valentine's Day. Some people are looking forward to it. Some people get engaged, all those things, and then other people, it's just not something that they're looking forward to, or might even be a little bit depressed. And so for this episode, I'll just let our listeners know, Charlie's doing a couple of episodes with us on relationships. This one is going to be talking more about romantic relationships, and then the next episode will be about our other relationships, our friendships, our parents, siblings, friends, all those things. So we'll start today, though, with romantic relationships. There's so much information. People can have conflicted feelings. When you're working with folks, where do you start when you're talking about relationships? And is there any difference? I know your website says dating or relationships with your disability. So how does that play in? That might be different.
Yeah, I would say my philosophy is to first start with your disability, to get very comfortable with what you experience, to what your needs are, to what your accommodations are, to how you like to be spoken to, how you like to be helped, what you don't want help with. Because figuring that out with a partner is really hard, and it's their responsibility to respect what you want, but it isn't their responsibility to figure out what you want. And it's really important to get clear on that before you get into a really committed relationship, or if you're in the, or if you're in the relationship already, to say, "Hey, I know that we need to figure this out, and first, I need to figure out what I want and what I need, and I'm going to work on that." So, with all my clients, we start there. Let's take a step back, remove the relationship aspect, and just talk about the relationship with yourself. and get really clear on those things before you start taking steps with what a partner, how a partner wants to interact with you and how you want your partner to interact with you and vice versa.
Well, that makes so much sense. Certainly, if you're not in a relationship and you're seeking a relationship, really to have that foundation going in. I think we all have a certain amount of fear, going into a new relationship. There's a certain amount of uncertainty, but related to their disability of, if that will be accepted or feeling like, oh, well, I can't, nobody will want to date me or, all those sorts of things.
Yes. And that's a whole other aspect of it. You can sense a theme here with what I'm saying. I would say you got to work that out first, right? Because if you bring that into the relationship, that might show up as you projecting fears about what people think about your disability, even though they may not, right? The partner that you're getting in the relationship with may think that your disability is amazing. They don't think anything less of you. But if you have that internalized ableism towards yourself, it doesn't matter what they think. So that's an important aspect of it. And I'll also say that it's completely normal to have those fears. And it's completely valid to be struggling with that because throughout history and throughout probably experiences within your life as the listener, people every single day with disabilities experience people not wanting them, people saying, you're pretty for a blind person, or I think you're really hot for a blind guy, right? Or whatever your gender identity might be. It's a caveat. It's not you're amazing as you are. And hearing that from multiple people may wrongly convince you that the person that you're with now thinks that way as well. And you have to be able to gain the skills to separate those scenarios and those belief systems so that, and to gain the confidence in yourself that you're worthy, that you're an amazing person, not in spite of your disability or in spite of your blindness, but with it.
Right.
And when you bring that energy to a relationship, the communication becomes so much easier.
Yeah, it seems like a balance of really owning the disability, being comfortable with your disability, but also having it be normalized that you're still just a normal person and you're entering into relationships just like anyone else. Exactly.
And every person in the entire world has insecurities. And if they say that they don't, that's not true.
No.
And the biggest thing is to be honest about those insecurities, right? Whether they're about blindness or they're about the way that you look, or whoever you may be out there, whether you're blind or disabled or not, if you can be honest with your partner and create a space where you can say, these things make me feel insecure and I wanted to share that with you. You don't make me feel insecure, but these things do. And I want you to be aware of it so we can work on it together and that you can be patient with me when I have some of these feelings because I don't want to have them all the time and they're there. And at least having the ability to have that type of a conversation is important because I'm a coach. I help people with this all the time. And even myself, of course, I have insecurities about what people think about my blindness. Of course, I have insecurities about my partner being worried about what it's going to be like when we have kids, because I'm worried about it. I don't know what it's going to be like. And I'm at least willing to have an open conversation about what those fears look like. So we can be in dialogue about it. Because if you're not in dialogue with it, you'll never know what your partner feels on the other side of it. And that's important too.
Right. Well, and I'm also just thinking about a person, maybe they have been sighted, and whether it's something like RP where they're losing vision or they've had a car accident or something has happened where they're losing vision, they're already in a relationship. They already think that they are going in this direction, and now this has changed. And being able to have those conversations when your life has changed.
Yeah. I mean, I just took a big out breath. I don't know if
I could see it.
I don't know if that came
Yes.
across through the podcast. You don't know if you could hear it through my microphone, but I took a big out breath because that's what being blind is like. You know, for most of us, that's what we experience every single day. Things constantly shift and things can get a lot worse in certain moments. And then also, you can get a diagnosis when you weren't expecting one, and that can completely shift the framework of a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why those communication skills are so important. Not always finding agreement, but being willing to be honest about these things are what I feel insecure about. This is what I struggle with. I want you to know that so we can be prepared for those situations. So you can be understanding of when I'm being crazy, you know, when I'm being wild and I'm not making sense. I want you to be able to understand where that's coming from so you can be more patient with me. And I want to know those insecurities on your end so I can be more patient and loving towards you.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you build that foundation, the blindness and the diagnosis shouldn't be a big deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
It will be because it's going to change your life, right? And what I mean by it's not going to be a big deal is you'll be able to work through it because you've already built those foundations. So this type of communication isn't just there for people with disabilities or people who are blind. It's for all of us. And I will say that people who are blind have to do it more often. There's more to talk about. And that's a fact of the scenario as well.
Can we delve into the communication aspect a little bit more? As you said, it's important for everyone. But I know we're talking about romantic relationships, but even with like business relationships, here, sometimes we need to be reminded, I can't see your body language, so you need to tell me, what you're feeling. And if you're in a relationship with someone that you either is or you're hoping will be long term, working out some of those things, and the differences maybe if one person is sighted and one blind, or both individuals are blind. I don't know if that would come more naturally because you're experiencing the same thing. You know, neither of you are seeing body language and those types of things.
Right. Yeah, it can be hard because it shifts, you know, and one moment I could see my partner's body language and the lighting shifts and then I can't.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that conversation is just first understanding in depth how your eyesight works and how it doesn't work and in which scenarios those types of things can shift, and then be open when it's happening with your partner saying, by the way, I just want to let you know, this lighting is terrible. I can't see anything right now.
Right.
Right? And once they have that information, things can change. They can understand that you're not going to know the body language. Maybe they'll reach out and give you their arm a little bit quicker. So I like to be really present with what's going on and constantly tell my partner. And I encourage my clients to do the same thing. That way, there's no guessing. Because one of the hardest things is for when a partner who isn't blind has to try and guess what you can see and what you can't, which is kind of impossible, right? So trying to balance those two things. Obviously, teach as much as you can. Have the sit-down conversations where you go fully in depth as to what you experience and what you don't, and what you can see versus what you can't, and how that shifts during the different lighting situations. And then when it's actually happening, tell them as well, so that they can experience it in the moment. And what I find is that more often than not, now my partner, she just knows, oh, he probably can't see right now, right? Or, you know, he's probably okay right now. And sometimes she's wrong, and sometimes I do need help, or sometimes I don't, and that's okay as well. And so that's why the present moment communication is so, so important too.
Yeah. Well, and I could see where a sighted partner might, if there's not communication, might overcompensate. And then that can come across as insulting or ableism because they're trying to offer help as opposed to, lacking in not offering help.
Yes, exactly. And that can, then when you're the blind partner and that's happening, how do you communicate that to your partner in a way that doesn't make them feel like they're being a total butthole, you know? That can be hard. You have to say, I want you to know that I appreciate how much you want to help me. And right now, I actually don't need your help and I'd like to try and do it on my own. And if I fail, I want you to be okay with that because I'm okay with that. The language there is very important. I want to hone in on a few words that I said because they're key. You'll notice I said the word and, I didn't say the word but. I also recognized their intention, which is to help you. And any partner who wants to help their partner, that gets a good intention grade. Okay. That's an A+ in intentions. Now, that doesn't always transfer to what the person actually wants. So you have to be willing to recognize, hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate how much you want to help me right now. Not, but I don't need your help. Because all they're going to hear is, you don't appreciate that you don't appreciate anything, right? So you want to leave space for both. I appreciate that you want to help. And I also want to let you know that right now I actually feel totally good. And come across in your energy as feeling good and say, I feel good. I want to try it on my own. And if I run into a wall, I'm totally cool with that. But if I'm about to fall off a cliff, stop.
Don't let me do that.
And then, don't let me do that. Like, don't let me walk into the street. But currently, I want to try it on my own. And they'll be like, great. Right? Any loving partner where you've built that trust with, they're gonna trust you to try to navigate that situation on your own. And they're going to feel appreciated and a part of the journey, not, you're always trying to help me too much. Leave me alone, right? And it'll make them feel alienated in that way. We want them to feel as a part of the journey.
Are there any other things, either specific, if you, in a couple that perhaps one is sighted, one is not, or even if just generally, if both are blind or both are sighted, that folks need to look out for, or be aware of in a relationship, especially if you're beginning a relationship and you're trying to see if this is going to work, or they're you mentioned some positive things. If somebody's trying to help you, that's a good sign, even if it's not the help you need at the moment. Yeah. But red flags are things people need to look out for as well.
Totally. Red flags. Let's talk about red flags. Sure. That sounds fun. I've experienced firsthand people who say that they are supportive of my blindness, but then are not actually supportive of it. And I've personally had experiences of a partner trying to cure my blindness with everything that they possibly could. Right. And oh my is the response. And at that time, I thought I wanted to cure my blindness. So like that all felt really great to me. But I didn't recognize in that moment that what they were actually doing and what they were actually saying is, I'll only love you fully and keep this going if you're not blind. Right? And that's a giant red flag, like the size of one of those red flags that, is on the side of the highway, that those humongous ones, right? But it's all red. Okay.
Danger.
That's a danger, right? So be clear. When somebody is telling you that and they are gung-ho, even more than you, about trying to cure it or find solutions for it or to work around it, I want you to take time and have a conversation with them and say, hey, I may never cure this. I'm okay with that. Are you okay with that? I want you to be honest with me. And then be prepared to hear what they're going to say. Don't play guessing games. Really understand. And then say, I want you to know that this is a part of me, right? I don't want you to love me in spite of my blindness or even because I've overcome my blindness. I want you to love me and my blindness. I want you to love me and my disability. How does that make you feel when I say that? Not, do you love me and my blindness, right? Because that can be a big question. You're like, oh, I was not ready for that. So instead say something like, how does that make you feel when I say that? How does that resonate with you? right? And then listen to the way that they respond. If they get very defensive and say, I'm not doing that, I'm not saying that, how could you feel that way?
Sign.
Right. Pay attention to that, not a good sign. And if they say, I didn't realize that I was making you feel that way, maybe I do have some learning to do. And I don't know, maybe I was not fully recognizing that I have some weird feelings towards being blind. And then have a conversation with them about how you feel about your blindness. They can do research on their own, but if they go research how people feel about their blindness, they could find anything. They could find someone on the web who cured it and is on a mission to, get gene therapy. Or they could find someone like me who's like, I love being blind. I would never change it, right? They don't need to know that information. They need to know how you feel about your blindness, and they need to become comfortable with that.
Yeah, that's huge. And you kind of need to be prepared to walk away if the answer is not acceptable.
Yeah. You need to be prepared to walk away. And life also has a funny way of helping you walk away, kind of forcing you down the I got to get out of here path, even if you weren't wanting it or recognizing it in the moment. And the other thing too is take time when you're ready to process through these emotions, to journal about it, to talk with a therapist about it, to talk with a coach about it. Don't feel like you have to solve these things on your own. It can be really overwhelming to experience someone that you love not fully accepting all of who you are. And if you're not fully at peace or acceptance with any of those scenarios that could come from it, from a conversation, it can be overwhelming to dive into that conversation right away. So I would really recommend that you take time to talk about it with someone who isn't involved, and to talk about it with someone who's not going to impose their beliefs onto you. To have someone who's just going to listen, to have someone who's just going to hear you and guide you in understanding what you want, rather than forcing you to do what they want. And then go into the conversation.
Yeah, because sometimes just being able to vocalize and talk to someone who's totally neutral and is just there to listen to you and bounce things off of. Sometimes just hearing yourself say something, all of a sudden you think, well, this is really how I feel.
Yeah.
It can help. Just even doing that can be very helpful.
100%. You start to become aware of feelings that you didn't really know were there. I didn't even realize that I was in a relationship with someone who didn't want to be in a relationship with a blind person until I was out of that relationship for a year. That's not even why the relationship ended. It ended for many other reasons, right? And that's the experience of me. I'm sharing my personal experience. That's the experience of a lot of people that I work with as well.
Sure.
In the moment, you're so invested in the love. You're so invested in the experience. It's really hard to take a step back and go, what am I not getting that I need? Right? And creating space while you're in a relationship to talk with people who are professionals or who will just listen to you, where you can come to those discoveries in real time, is a huge asset and something that you should take advantage of.
Yeah, it can be really helpful. Yeah. That's just making me think about someone who maybe's gone through a divorce, had a very committed relationship, for some time. Maybe they have children, maybe they don't, but just being able, like the anxieties, I think we all have anxieties around relationships and anxieties. If we've been in a relationship, especially one that's been more long-term, and then that comes to an end of being able to enter into a relationship again.
Yeah, it can be really, really challenging. And it's an opportunity to really connect with yourself and what's changed and what you want out of a relationship now, rather than basing it off of what you didn't get in that scenario. Because sometimes what you didn't get isn't what you need now.
Right.
I'm going to say that again because it's really hard to understand, and it sometimes doesn't even register as making sense. But sometimes what you didn't receive from one relationship is not what you need in a new one. Sometimes you've moved past that and you need something else. So get in touch with what you need. What do you want? You're always shifting and always changing, especially when you've been in a long-term relationship with someone. You probably need some time to just figure out who you are and what you like and what you need. And that doesn't mean that you can't have fun and date a little bit at the same time. But inviting someone else into that journey with you, maybe it's not the right time for that. And however long you need, it could be a month, it could be a year, it could be whatever. Don't judge yourself for it and allow yourself to get really clear on those things so that the next time you go into a relationship, you aren't compromising, but you're, truly manifesting and creating what you do need now, which will create true happiness rather than healing for what you didn't receive in the last relationship.
Right, because there's nothing like that feeling of realizing you're just helping somebody get over their last relationship, and it's not so much about the current relationship that you're in.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're also getting into like very, very specific details here. I think on a general scope, like if we take a step back, morals and values are also very important. And you want to make sure that those things are in alignment. And what someone wants out of a relationship is the same thing that you want as well. It's not just about, do they love me in my blindness? Great. Because you could be with someone that loves you in your blindness, but doesn't want kids, doesn't want a family, doesn't want to hang out with your family, and wants to travel the world in a van. And you're like, well, I want to live in suburbia and have our parents be our grandparents. And like, I don't even want kids. I don't even want a dog. But I love you in your blindness, Yeah. You see the issues there? Right. So you want to make sure that you balance those, and it can be overwhelming, right? You're like, well, how am I going to find someone who loves my blindness, who loves me for everything that I am, respects all my boundaries, and they also have the same values as me? Dating and being patient and working through it and committing yourself to being with someone who's at least willing to make compromises and work with you rather than work against you is a good starting point.
Do you have some advice or tips for folks? They have this person. Of course, nobody's perfect, and as you said, life shifts and changes as you go along.
Yeah.
But you're trying to communicate. You're trying to work things out. Do you have advice or tips on keeping your relationship healthy and vibrant and growing and, not becoming stagnant?
Yeah. I'm going to say something that probably is a little taboo, but make sure you're having good sex.
Yeah.
and I know that's a little taboo to say, but like, that's the truth. Make sure that you are constantly evolving physically and emotionally at the same time. And everything that we've spoken about now has been emotional. You got to have both, and you got to be willing to work together as to what the needs are in different moments, because you're going to shift sexually and physically, and you're going to shift emotionally and spiritually. And making space for both of those things is going to be really important, because you could grow with someone spiritually and mentally and emotionally, and everything could be amazing. But if you've completely neglected the physical side of your relationship, it doesn't matter. Someone's needs won't be met, or someone will feel mistreated in some way, and then things will deteriorate. So you have to take ownership of all those different pieces and pay attention to everything at one time, and constantly be in communication about those things in the moment when they're happening. As long as you're in a state that you can have the conversation. If you're so upset that you're just going to, no progress will be made, then don't do it. Okay. But if you are in a place where you're calm enough, but it did hurt your feelings, just say, hey, I want to let you know, like, that hurt my feelings. Or, hey, what did you mean by that? I feel like that's different from what we've talked about previously. And then be open and listen to them about what's shifting and what's changing. And you could say, okay, is that a right now type of thing? Is that a forever type of thing? How can we work together on that? Right? Being really open, get all the information before jumping to conclusions, and try and work with a partner who is as willing to have those types of conversations as well.
That is great advice, Charlie. You've given us so much information about romantic relationships, starting them, being in the middle of them, moving on from them when needed, starting again, all those things. So I really appreciate that. We're really just getting into the meat of all of that. And certainly I want to let folks know if you have questions or comments, feel free to either give us a call or send us an email. The number is 720-712-8856, or feedback, FEEDBACK, at aftersight.org, AFTERSIGHT.org. We would love to hear your comments. And Charlie will be back next time. We'll be talking. Yeah, looking forward to that. Yes. So we'll be talking about all those other relationships in our life. Often that significant other, those romantic relationships are so key and core to our life, but we also have so many other relationships that are important to us.
Yes.
And we'll be talking about all of those. So I'm looking forward to that.
And those are some very different relationships too. So the advice is going to be different and the context will be different. So we hope that you join us next time as well. And thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you again.
Thank you. And thanks to all of you for listening and for joining us for Navigating Life with Vision Loss. As I said, send us comments, give us a review on whatever podcast platform you listen to us on. And if this is very helpful to you, of course, AfterSight is a nonprofit. We always appreciate donations. And for more information on any of our other programs or services, you can always go to our website, which is www.aftersight.org. And I don't want to forget, I almost forgot, Charlie, how do they contact you? Because I know you have Instagram and website as well.
Yeah. So if you just look up Charlie Kramer Vision, you'll find me. Kramer with a K, just like Seinfeld. Charlie is L-I-E. Vision, V-I-S-I-O-N. You can search that on any social media platform. I'm most active on Instagram. And also, if you just go to charliekramervision.com, you can book a free call with me and we can have a chat and work through what might be helpful to you.
Great. Thanks so much. We'll be talking to you next time, Charlie. And to all of you, I hope the information we've shared today has helped you navigate your life with vision loss.